Tome of Uselessness. I'm Devin.
I'm Dan.
And today we're talking all about every single ever made Sherlock Holmes thing.
We may cut it off early.
What's that?
I said we may have to cut that early because if I
yeah.
recall, he has the record of being the most portrayed character in fiction ever.
Really?
Yeah, because it's been public domain since like forever.
Interesting. But before we get into it, did you like anything this week?
Yes. And before I get into that, I wanted to we don't really talk about this kind of stuff usually a lot on the show, but I wanted to talk a little bit of movie news.
Oh,
and wonder, did you see the planned release for Wonder Woman 84?
I heard that it was coming out in December, but I think movie theaters are closed in the States again.
Yes. So, yeah, this kind of came out, I think, 2 weeks ago or a week ago. Anyway, so it's still technically planned to be released internationally on December 25th.
Okay.
But simultaneously, it's going to be released on HBO Max.
Weird.
But it's weird because it's only going to be for a month at no additional cost to people who have HBO Max.
Okay.
Yeah, and HBO Max is only available in the States, so other regions that can't get it, the movie's going to come out December 16th.
So it's going to be available in Canada December 16th?
That I don't know, because obviously we're in North America.
Yeah.
That I still thought it was going to be December 25 is when we're technically maybe slated to get it.
Weird.
But it's pretty weird because obviously it's a Warner Brothers production. Which is owned by AT&T, so that's why they have the old HBO Max thing going on.
Oh, I see.
So Warner Brothers, of course, distributed Tenet, which I didn't look at it, but it didn't make as much money as it probably could have made during a normal time. And same with this movie, it's a $200 million movie, and Wonder Woman, the first one, made about $800 million box office. So they were, of course, projecting that kind of at least for this movie. But now who knows what that's going to happen.
I feel like a smarter choice would be to either hold off a year or to just release it for rent on like all the platforms.
Right.
Right? Like I rented Bill and Ted on the PlayStation Store.
Right.
Like have it for like $20 on Steam and stuff.
Well, and that's, of course, like Mulan tried that, and I don't think did well.
Well, Mulan, wasn't it only available on Disney Plus, but then you had to pay an extra $30?
Yeah.
But you also had to have a subscription.
Yes.
I'm saying just release it on everything for like $20.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. So it's like they're obviously trying. It's odd that they're going forward with the release, whereas, for example, like Black Widow and Bond and everything, that was just pushed all back to next year.
Yeah. I guess maybe they thought that it was a good movie to test.
Maybe. Again, because like I said, they tried with Tenet just releasing it.
Yeah.
And, it did all right-ish, but not, gangbusters.
Well, yeah. It shouldn't do gangbusters, right? There's a pandemic. People shouldn't be going to the movie theater.
Yeah.
And I know I have gone to the movie theater, but like it was like empty every single time.
It was different scenario during that time, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, I just thought it was kind of an interesting thing to touch on that, and like you said, an idea of just releasing it to streaming services or on demand. And also an idea that they could have made a deal and tried to recoup some money there. So I don't know. It was just kind of it'll be interesting to see.
WonderWoman1984.com and release it on that.
Well, and I guess
they release it through movie theaters' websites. I know you can download movies on Cineplex.
Yeah, you can. And like I said, I think they're trying the same idea of just putting it on their HBO Max because they're like, maybe people will come to HBO Max.
Yeah. Okay. Weird plan, Warner Brothers. We'll see how it works out for you.
Yeah, I'm also curious. That's why I kind of wanted to bring it up. That it's just like, so it's on some streaming, but it's also going to be released in theaters. Who knows what's going to happen?
Disaster.
Pretty much, like all the rest of everything that's happening.
Yeah.
But to get back to some of the stuff I liked, This was kind of interesting, talking about disasters. There was somebody put up, have you heard of, it was called In Search of a Flat Earth?
Oh, by Dan Olson?
Well, his channel's Folding Ideas. His name might be Dan.
Dan Olson's the host. I watched that, and then I watched his most recent one, too.
Oh, really?
I'm subscribed to him. He's the guy that does, like, I think it's 45 minutes is the first 50 Shades of Grey. And then by the time you get to the last 50 Shades of Grey, kind of like review / in defense of / a complete annihilation of, it's like an hour and a half. It's like the same runtime as the movie.
Yeah, because just everything's wrong.
Yeah. He ends it with, because just as that video came out, the story, I can't remember what it was called, but she released a book from Mr. Grey's point of view of the first one.
Oh.
And it ends with him just throwing the book into a lake.
Maybe that same lake that he filmed for In Search of a Flat Earth.
Nope, different lake. No, different lake. I did really like that video.
Yeah, the In Search for Flat Earth was really good. I really enjoyed it. It was kind of interesting how it just took that turn to then be about like QAnon and basically conspiracy stuff, because that's what the Flat Earth stuff is as well. So I liked it. It was good.
His most recent video, I think, is called How a Bunch of Geocentrists Tricked Physicists into Being in Their Documentary.
Oh, really? Nice.
It's pretty good. It's worth watching as well.
Yeah, I guess I'll have to dive into some of his more stuff and check it out.
Yeah, he normally sticks more to like movies and movies, just movies. But lately he's been doing this kind of like breakdown of conspiracy theory stuff, which is really interesting.
Yeah, it's when I clicked on his videos, I saw that there was movie stuff and made me kind of curious, because this Flat Earth one, of course, was so well done and like on point that I thought that's what he was about, kind of a thing. He does
tend to get a little bit preachy sometimes, and I find that he makes, I want to say, like bad faith arguments where he's just really ready to tear down a movie, so he kind of like looks for the worst in them regardless of what's going on.
Sure.
But overall I really enjoy his stuff, and I like the way he lays things out.
Cool. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, the 50 Shades series is really good.
Nice.
Yeah.
I also, as you know, I like, listen to the Weekly Planet and Caravan of Garbage, and then they had the Auntie Donna, a couple of their guys on their show. And
okay.
They have a Netflix show that came out called Auntie Donna's Big Old House of Fun.
Oh, is that like the 3 Australian brothers?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. I saw a preview, but I wasn't sure about it. It looked kind of dumb.
Well, so it's 6 episodes, and it's just like a sketch comedy show within like a light framework, like every episode.
Uh-huh.
So, like any sketch comedy show, there was hits and misses, but some stuff had me just laughing like crazy, and other stuff, you chuckle or whatever, but it switches every 3 minutes to the next bit. So it's kind of like, it's just some lighthearted entertainment, and I thought there was some really funny stuff in there.
Oh, nice. I think I'm just not really a fan of sketch comedy anymore.
No, that's totally fair, and even I've kind of, waffled here and there on it, but I thought this stuff was kind of funny where, like I said, there's just some good jokes here and there and some stuff that makes you laugh. And
it seemed very loud from the trailer.
Wow.
They were just making a lot of noise.
Sure. Well, I think because I don't know too much about Auntie Donna, but I've heard them mentioned before. Like they do sing song stuff, and they do sketch comedy, or they do wordplay here and there. So it's like in the show, like one thing starts and then it breaks into like a song, and I'm like, what is even happening here? and it's like in and out. So like there was one song of them talking about coffee, and they call it Morning Brown, but then it takes this weird turn, and it's just like comes out of nowhere. So.
Nice.
Yeah. So anyway, it was only 6 episodes, so I did enjoy that. And I think the last thing I'll mention was Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Oh, is that the game?
That is indeed the game from, I don't even know, 4 years ago now. Who knows? I don't even track that kind of stuff anymore. But
is that the pirate one?
No, that was Black Flag.
Oh.
This one's the Greek world one.
Ooh.
Yeah, so I finished the main storyline. I'm kind of into the DLC now, but I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. It made sense, and it was kind of like they took some mechanics from other things and incorporated into the game in an interesting way. And as long as you enjoy the gameplay loop, which I was, because it's just open world, and you're like, go find this guy or go here, and then you're just like, murder everybody because you're an assassin. So, but there was some really cool stuff and some cool, like you fight a Medusa, which I really enjoyed, and like a Minotaur and stuff. So I enjoyed it.
Cool.
And the game is huge. Like I put in, I think I'm like almost 100 hours into this game, and there's still so much if I wanted to like explore and do and whatever. It's very well done at open world.
Nice.
Yeah. Oh, I was going to mention real quick the Pandora's Star by Peter F. Hamilton. That was the author of Salvation and stuff like that. I'm over halfway, probably like 65% through this current book, which turns out it's like this big epic, but it's pretty good.
Cool.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting again.
That's the one you were telling me about yesterday, right?
Yeah, so it's
not on air.
No, yes. But it's pretty interesting because, like, again, the projected technology is like a way that you could see it happening. And what kind of the main twist or what is that we figured out how to like rejuvenate our bodies. And so people do that like every 60 years or whatever kind of thing. And then they rejuvenate back to like when they're in their 20s. So some people have lived centuries.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, and
vampires.
Like vampires, but then they also can like store, because I guess maybe the brain would get too full in a way or something like that. So they store memories externally and stuff like that. So even dying, they can just reclone you a new body and put your memories all back.
Oh, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting because then politically and just like long-term viewish, like people, don't sweat the small stuff in a sense because they're just like, been alive for 300 years, right? And so I don't know, it's well written. I really enjoy that, and it's kind of just a neat. But the one thing that, of course, happens is because people have lived like this are able to, that the rich just get richer.
Of course.
So it's just like endless riches for like these people because they're like, oh, I invested in this thing 150 years ago, and then now this planet is worth a lot of money, and they're like, and my whole family's a dynasty rich now. Haha.
Question.
Yeah.
Do people still have kids?
Yes. So
weird.
In the book, so they call them first lifers because they're all just like, oh, they're so full of life, and everything's so dramatic to them, but because they're on their first life.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So, but it's like possible to have children, kind of like almost like the island style, where it's like grown or like incubated in an external source, or some people can have children like naturally.
Interesting.
Yeah. So anyway, cool so far. I think it's a dual. There's 2 books, so still in the first one.
Nice.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry, talked for a long time about that kind of stuff.
No,
what about yourself, Devin?
Okay, so first, I've been walking to work, which is about like an hour-long walk, so I've been listening to audiobooks. And I've been listening to Sarah McLean's weird Victorian romance novels. So I finished 9 Rules to Break When You're Romancing a Rake, which is pretty good.
Okay.
And then I preferred 10 Ways to Be Adored When Landing a Lord.
I will say that's some great titling.
Right? And now I'm on the 3rd book, which is 11 Scandals to Start When Winning, or To Win a Duke's Heart. I didn't realize that they rhymed until I just read them out loud now.
Yeah.
But they're pretty good. They kind of have like that Jane Austen feel, except they're written in modern times, so they're like completely silly. Right. Yeah. And then when was the last time we recorded? Was it a while ago?
At least 2 weeks ago, maybe 3.
Did I talk about The Crown?
I don't think so. Okay. Maybe we talked a bit about it, or maybe off air, because we were both listening to that Deanna series from You're Wrong About, and then I know that The Crown is featuring her prominently.
Yeah, so I watched season 4 of The Crown. It features her a lot, and it was all right. I feel like the first 2 seasons of The Crown are the strongest seasons of The Crown. The actress, this is actually kind of interesting. I made a mistake on the podcast where I said that the actress that played Diana was the actress that played one of the daughters in Bill and Ted, but
Right.
that is incorrect.
Okay.
I don't know where I got that information from. I think I just made it up. But the actress, the real true story is that the actress that plays Diana came in just to read lines for the actress who was auditioning to be Camilla.
Okay.
And they
like to play off of or whatever, yeah.
Yeah, to play off her, right? But she wasn't like auditioning for anything, and they liked her so much that they cast her.
Oh, well, that's interesting.
Yeah, and there's moments where she just is Diana. Like, it's eerie. So
well, that's her job.
She does a very good job. And then aside from that, I've just been watching all the cheesy Christmas Hallmark romances on Netflix.
Excellent.
So I've watched A Cinderella Story, Christmas Wish, which is incredibly stupid. It's a modern day Cinderella story. The main character has to work as a Christmas elf.
Okay.
For some reason. She also wants to be a pop star. There's a scene, it's not a musical, but there's a scene where her and the guy who plays, he's like a rich guy, but he's pretending not to be a rich guy because he has to be the Santa Claus for his family, or I don't know. These stories are so convoluted. But anyways, they break out into song, which I think is diegenic to the movie, even though it's not a musical, but it really takes you out of it because they're so auto-tuned that they all sound like robots.
Nice.
Yeah. And then I watched The 12 Gifts of Christmas, which was one of the better Christmas movies where an artist has to become a personal shopper and she ends up falling in love with the guy that she shops for. So pretty straightforward.
Sure.
I watched A Christmas Wedding Planner, which was one of the worst ones. Where the main girl is planning a wedding for her cousin, and then her cousin's ex shows up because he's been hired as a PI as her cousin's dead dad because he's worried that she's going to marry someone who's an asshole, and it turns out that the guy she's marrying is an asshole.
Oh, no.
But the main girl has to work with the ex-boyfriend to, like, spy on him.
But where does Christmas factor in?
It's happening at Christmas.
A wedding on Christmas?
Yeah, she's going to have a Christmas Eve wedding.
Isn't that the worst idea ever?
Oh, my God. Totally. And it ends with, like, her wedding, the cousin's wedding, and then it's getting interrupted by the fiance's maid who's pregnant. So they cancel the wedding, but then the ex-boyfriend PI proposes to the main girl after knowing her for 6 days, and they just get married because everybody's there for a wedding.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I was confused for a moment there because so
it's confusing.
No, because I thought that the PI guy was trying to get back with the ex, but that's not the angle.
Well, that's what you think at first, but then it turns out that he's in love with the main girl.
Right.
So
they just get married.
They just get married after knowing each other for 6 days.
Sure.
It's gonna end in divorce. And then I also watched The Christmas Inheritance, which is about an heiress who has to... Oh, okay. So she wants to become the CEO of her dad's company, but he thinks she needs to learn about Christmas to do that.
Sorry.
So he sends her to a village up north.
Okay.
In the States, so not that north.
Yeah, no, no.
It's still Canada.
Yeah.
They act like it's like the North Pole.
Sure.
So he sends her to this village, and she isn't allowed to have her credit cards, and she's only allowed to have $100, and she has to deliver a box of letters to her Uncle Zeke, but her Uncle Zeke's not there, so she has to work at the diner to be able to stay at the inn that her Uncle Zeke owns, but she's not allowed to tell people that her Uncle Zeke owns it because she can't tell anyone who she is.
Sure.
And she falls in love with the inn manager, sorry.
Yeah.
And then her fiance comes up and he's an asshole, and then he tells the inn manager that she's the CEO's daughter, and then he's mad at her for some reason, but then they end up together. And she becomes the CEO, and also her Uncle Zeke is Santa.
Oh, okay, of course, yeah.
Yeah. And then the last one, I swear, is Dolly Parton's Christmas on the Square, which is a musical.
I would hope so.
And Dolly Parton plays an angel. And I actually really liked that one. It was cute.
Cool.
Yeah, so I won't spoil it for people but yeah, out of all of them, I recommend that one, followed by the 12 Gifts of Christmas, and you can skip the other 3. Also, I'm very sniffly because I have a cold, so I'm sorry if I keep sniffing.
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly go back to the previous movie you mentioned. And sorry, her dad, CEO, is like, for you to become CEO, you have to go learn about Christmas, not you have to go to like business school or whatever.
Well,
it's a Christmas business.
Okay. So this isn't a Hallmark movie. Like, it's not a Hallmark produced movie, but the company is like a Hallmark-esque company.
Okay.
So I assume she had to go learn about Christmas because Hallmark makes Christmas cards.
Yeah, or I was going to say, yeah, is it like she played as like she's too cold at everything and doesn't have the cheer?
Well,
spirit.
She's too wild. That's how they present it, because at the beginning, she's doing backflips for charity because she used to be a gymnast at a gala.
Okay. Yeah.
And random guy's like, I'll double my charity offer if you can vault over this Christmas display. And she does it, but then her dad's secretary or whatever comes in and is like, what are you doing? So she stumbles and falls into a Christmas tree, and then that's in all the papers the next day.
Oh, okay. Anyway, but like you said, that one's not very good. We'll just jettison that.
Yeah, you don't need to watch that. And it's starring like dollar store Reese Witherspoon. And a guy that kind of looks like Norman Bates.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But I was saying, it does sound like she can do a backflip, so that's some good talents there.
Oh, I'm pretty sure that was a body double.
Oh, darn.
Although I do think it was her falling in the Christmas tree.
Right. So anyway, that's some good stuff there.
Yeah, clearly. People need to know, Dad.
I'm not denying that. I'm just saying time to move on, I think, to Sherlock.
Sounds good. The Sherlock o'clock.
Indeed.
Where do you want to start?
Well, I don't know. Like, as I said, he's been super fictionalized over time, and I guess we could start. Have you read any of the stories?
Yes, I used to have a book with a bunch of them, and I've read like the classics, like The Hounds of Baskerville and A Study in Pink.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I'll say I have a similar collection like you're describing that contains a whole bunch of the works.
I haven't read all of them, though.
Yeah. Well, and again, I don't know if that contains everything in that one collection I've read, but it did contain quite a lot from what I understand. Because, of course, he wrote them in like a serialized magazine and etc. before they were all kind of compiled into books.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
I was thinking about it because there's been so many different, like, when I was looking through Prime this morning, because I was like, let's see what else I can find that's Sherlock related. There's been a lot of, like, interpretations of Sherlock.
Of course.
I came across one that was, like, Sherlock Holmes investigating, like, Godzilla-type monsters that were invading London.
Nice.
Which I did not watch because the trailer made it look terrible. But I was just, like, trying to pinpoint what some, like, common traits of Sherlock that occur in all iterations of him were.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, like, the intelligence, being a great detective,
His
and
observational abilities.
Observational, yeah. Sometimes the heroin or drug addiction.
Right.
And then I think more so in the more recent ones, not being able to relate to other people.
Yeah.
But not as much in, like, more traditional Sherlock.
Sure. Well, and even in the books, like, that's not an area they kind of explore. He just, like, hangs out with Watson, essentially, because they're all written from Watson's point of view. So it's just kind of like, this is what we're doing, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think, like, the original ones are more like, this is an interesting crime story that I'm going to approach in a way that most people wouldn't approach in.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, modern interpretations of Sherlock's are more, like, about the way he ticks, like what makes him tick, the way he thinks and all that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like how does he look at the same things and see so much more or something so much else?
Totally.
And I don't know, like I was kind of looking through, as you said, looking through lists and stuff like that on like IMDb and everything like that. And I thought that was kind of interesting because, of course, there has been some movies that we're going to talk about and some TV shows. But what was really kind of interesting, I found that there was like a ton of just like TV movies where
yes.
I was really kind of surprised where I was like, was the idea, especially more in later times, I could see this being like a cynical thing where they're like, we'll make this one TV movie. If it's really popular, then we can just spin it off into a TV show.
Mm-hmm.
But I could see back in the early 80s or the late 80s, early 90s where they did them and they're just like, yeah, we're just making a Sherlock TV movie. It's cool. Because that was more of a thing back then.
I think, like, thinking cynically,
Mm-hmm.
like, there was a bit of a wave of, like, murder mysteries that would make it easy to cash in on Sherlock with, right? Like,
Oh, yeah.
Murder, She Wrote, in the 80s, I'm saying, right? Magnum PI, like those kind of shows. I could see people seeing that and being like, oh, that's just kind of like Sherlock. Let's make a Sherlock movie.
Right.
Let's get a semi-famous actor, and maybe people will tune in on a Thursday night.
And we'll sell some ad space.
Yeah, totally. We'll make it cheap because it's Sherlock. You just need some, like, old-timey costumes.
Sure. And something else to be like, this is something we've talked about a lot before, that, like you were saying, there's like those traits of Sherlock, that those traits have been incorporated into other characters to make like a new show, like famously like House and, you know, that kind of thing, like where it's just like,
yep.
so
A
like
smart guy who can't relate to people.
Yeah, exactly. But like, yeah, those traits have been incorporated into other characters to create a character for a different show, but it's not called Sherlock or Sherlock Holmes or whatever, right?
Remember that wave of shows that happened after House? There was like House and The Mentalist, and that they were all like basically the same character though.
Oh, sure. I mean, that happens all the time, right?
Oh, yeah.
When something's popular, they're just like, we got to cash in when we can.
Money, 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 money.
Yeah, basically.
There's also just Sherlock shows up in other shows, like not Sherlock-centric shows.
Sure.
For example, I believe in later seasons of Doctor Who, well, not later seasons, later seasons of Matt Smith Doctor Who, Sherlock shows up as a lizard lady.
Right. I think I've seen a picture of that, but I don't think I've seen that episode.
I think I have.
Right.
They all blur together after a while. I lost interest after the pond storyline ended.
Yeah, myself as well.
When it was, I just didn't like Clara. I know that everybody else loves her, but I couldn't get into it.
That's the Impossible Girl.
Yeah.
Is that her name? Yeah.
Wasn't my jam.
That's her. I
Bring
mean, I
back.
was reluctant to go back to Matt Smith after Tenet. So
I know, I was just about to say, bring back Tennant.
yeah.
Well, even the Doctor in like later seasons, he's kind of like a Sherlock Holmes character too.
Well, sure, Peter Capaldi.
Yeah,
Yeah, he looks like a Sherlock Holmes.
totally.
And I was going to say famously as well, for my example of that was going to be Star Trek TNG, of course.
Oh, does he show up in that?
Well, so they do a lot of times with the holodeck, Data will be played Sherlock Holmes.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and so there's two bigger episodes where that kind of thing happens where it doesn't make any sense, but Geordi asks the computer to create an opponent that can defeat Data, and then it somehow creates a Moriarty that's smarter than Data and knows about, the real world and blah, 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 and he takes the ship hostage. He comes back once or twice, and they're actually really good episodes, but it's just like, yeah, they're just going in to play Holmes and Watson. And I think the start of that first one is that they go in, and then like someone's like, oh no, there's been a murder or something like that. And then Data is like, no, this is all a distraction from this person committing the real crime, just like instantly solves it.
Nice.
And then so like Geordi's like, okay, well, let's try to create like an original. So, but again, he still just like solves it in 2 seconds because he's like, I saw this happening over here. So. But yeah, they do some Holmes Watson stuff a few times.
That's cool.
And it makes sense because Data, of course, is an emotionless android.
Yeah, just like Sherlock Holmes.
Just like Sherlock Holmes, yes.
I haven't seen it yet, but have you seen the super popular and well-received Sherlock Gnomes?
I have not. It was funny because, like I said, I typed it in and I saw that and I was like, wait, is that a thing? This is not just like a Photoshop that someone made up?
Yeah, I believe, I don't know if it's the sequel to or it's the original, but there's also Romeo and Juliet.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it's a gnome-based children's movie franchise.
I mean, I guess anything like that can work, right? And, kids, when they enjoy something, you keep making them sequels, right?
Yeah, totally.
But I assume I am not the target audience for
what?
Sherlock Holmes.
I'm shocked.
I know.
I thought you would be.
Yes, I was going to be all over that. I was going to ask, talking about some depictions, did you see the Ian McKellen one from 2015 called Mr. Holmes?
No?
Yeah, neither did I. I was kind of interested in it. It's like he's later, I mean, he's Ian McKellen, so he's an older gentleman and man, and he's retired, and it's like some kind of case comes back, but he has almost like an Alzheimer kind of thing going on, so he doesn't remember everything.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's not super highly rated, but I also was kind of like, oh, that sounds kind of interesting, and but I never got around to seeing it. I should have watched it earlier.
I also didn't see the Will Ferrell one, the Holmes and Watson, I think it was called.
Yeah.
That got panned.
I know, which is too bad. I was looking forward to it. And then, yeah, I just heard like instantly everyone was like, this is like the worst movie. Even for a funny comedy, there's nothing there.
Yeah.
Because even bad comedies can still have some jokes or sequences that kind of work, but apparently there's no bueno.
That, it doesn't surprise me. It's not my style of comedy, though. That's
fair. But I mean, because he had some good runs and some good movies, and I was like, that's kind of an interesting idea. Try to parody the Victorian times, but it just didn't work.
Can we talk about shows?
Sure, we're talking Sherlock. What do you want to talk about?
I was thinking maybe we could start with TV shows and then go into movies that we've seen.
Sure.
Instead of ones we haven't seen.
Alrighty, let's do it. What are we seeing?
Well, obviously we should start with Sherlock, the BBC Sherlock. I've seen the whole thing.
Yes, and I have not.
I would recommend stopping watching it after season 2.
Which is where I stopped.
You're very wise to do so.
And it's not because I really was looking forward to season 3. And I remember when season 3 came out and I had a copy of, I think, the first or 2 episodes. I was working, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then I just, put it off. And then I had heard from people and probably from you that it wasn't very good. And so I was just like, oh, that's disappointing, and never watched it.
That's, the thing is, when you have such a great, so season 1 establishes who Sherlock and Watson are and what they do, and it introduces Moriarty as the big bad, basically, right? And then season 2 is, again, there's only 3 episodes per season, but they're hour-and-a-half long episodes.
Yeah.
And they're not going through and just fighting Moriarty the whole time, but he is in it more.
Well, yeah, and of course, famously, it ends with the big confrontation at the end of season 2.
Yeah, and spoilers, Moriarty dies.
Yes.
And I guess you could go on from there, but they made Moriarty out to be the only person in the whole world equal to Sherlock's intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you get to season 3, they're scrambling for a bad guy, which they kind of land on one that is just, they try to make it seem like it's a big deal, but it's just not.
You're like, it can't be a big deal.
It's like a deflated balloon, season 3.
Well, and that's interesting to me because it's like, okay, Moriarty's dead, Sherlock somehow survived. Then you just have him go on cases, right? Just don't have an overarching bad guy. Because the first episode, Study in Pink, they're just like, oh, but then it's kind of hinted at that it was like, oh, someone was paying me to do it. And you're like, oh, that's what's going on there.
Yeah.
But it's just just have him go on a case.
Yeah,
right?
totally, right? And then season 4, they kind of realized that it was a deflated balloon. So they tried to bring back Moriarty, except Moriarty's dead. So then they had to make someone even more clever than Moriarty. Can I spoil it for you?
Yeah, honestly, I'm never going to watch these.
So they give Sherlock a sister that he didn't know about, who killed his best friend, Redbeard, who up until the last episode you thought was a dog. For all of season 3 and most of season 4, they said it was a dog.
Right, they rosebuded it.
Turned out it was a kid, and she sets up these elaborate Saw-like puzzles for Sherlock. What's his brother's name again?
Mycroft.
Yeah, Sherlock Mycroft and John Watson. Because she wants to be part of the family, and she's mad that she's been locked in an asylum.
Maybe she shouldn't be setting up saw traps then if she's gets you locked up in an asylum,
So yeah, it was it's very weird. It's a very weird direction, and it seems super fantastical compared to the rest of the season,
right.
To the rest of the series, right?
Yeah, because it was very grounded and realistic.
Yeah, that was kind of the point. What if Sherlock was alive today in a real world?
Yeah.
And then you have his crazy sister who is 10 times smarter than everybody in the whole world put together. And I don't know. I guess it was disappointing. But the first 2 seasons are so good.
Yeah, absolutely they are.
And the Irene Adler episode is one of my favorites.
Yeah, it's very, very good.
Yeah.
And of course, the depiction by Benedict Cumberbatch and Martin Freeman are excellent.
Oh yeah, it's such a well cast show.
Yeah.
It's too bad that the writers fell down and hurt their creativity. I don't know.
Well, I think just like you said, they were. Because it was very...
It's Russell T. Davies, right?
Yeah, and Moffat, right, was in there, wasn't he? But I was going to say, like you said, it was so spread out because it was from 2010 to 2017 that it's they did the first 2, and because they were so popular, they were probably not forced to bring it back, but almost kind of coerced into bringing it back to be well, we got to do more, right?
Yeah, I feel like so they did one episode kind of in between season 3 and season 4. I think where it was like a basically like a feature-length film of all the same characters but set in Victorian times.
Yeah, that came up on a Google search. That's what I assumed that was.
And like I almost wish that after season 2 they had just gone back to the beginning and made it like a Victorian version, you know what I mean?
Right, that could have been cool.
I don't know how they would explain it. They don't have to explain it. They could just be Victorian or Watson and Holmes, right?
Basically, yeah.
But no, that's not what they did. They did bad. They did bad things.
Fair enough.
And then there's kind of in more recent years, they did the Elementary show. Have you seen that?
No, but definitely wanted to mention it because, of course, that came out in 2012, and it ran for 7 seasons, which very, very good for them. Because I remember when it kind of came out, people were pretty down about it, but I guess it must have been pretty quality to go for that long.
So I watched the first 4 episodes in preparation for this episode.
Yeah.
And I actually, there's parts of it I really liked, and there's parts that I'm kind of meh about.
Sure.
I know people were really mad that they cast Lucy Liu as Watson, but I really like her.
Sure.
I also just really like Lucy Liu in general, so I am a little biased.
No, that's what I mean. How could you not like Lucy Liu?
Yeah, she's really good, and the premise is that Sherlock has been in rehab when the show starts, and it has moved from London to New York. And his rich father has paid Lucy Liu to be his sober companion. So
Right.
she goes and lives with him for 6 weeks and makes sure that he stays on his path to sobriety from his heroin addiction.
Mm-hmm.
And she plays she's a former surgeon who lost her job and has become this sober companion. And she actually plays it really well, like checking in on his mental health and like checking in on whether or not he wants to use drugs and stuff. And it's a different interpretation, but I really like it.
Cool.
What I don't like about it is this is going to sound very hypocritical coming from a person covered in tattoos. But he has a lot of tattoos, and it seems very like out of character for the way he's playing Sherlock, so I find it very distracting.
Right.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, I really like who they cast as Gregson, the police chief.
Mm-hmm.
If you've seen Practical Magic, he plays the cop in that too.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I don't remember who played the cop in that, but
yeah, it's pretty good. I've been enjoying it. I would watch more of it.
cool. Yeah, and I was going to ask, was that on Prime, Netflix?
It's on Prime.
It's on Prime. Cool. Yeah, like I said, it was always just kind of one of those things that it's in the back burner, and then doing a little bit of research into it now, I was like, oh, guess I should try to check that out. And like, how many episodes are in a season? Is there more kind of, from the sense you get from 4 episodes, is it more like singular one-shots, or is there more of like a...
I would say that they're more like, yeah, it's almost like in a Law and Order situation where like each week it's a different case.
Sure.
But the relationships and their dynamics grow over time, and they learn more about each other. Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, it's like an episodic show in that vein. Cool.
Yeah. It's like you could watch an episode of it and go a couple days and then watch another.
Sure.
You know, it's not built for you to binge watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Which I appreciate. You need shows like that sometimes.
Yeah, it was built for network television, and once a week.
Yeah. That's all I've got for TV shows, unless you have more to add.
No, those were the 2 I had written down, because again, focusing on something from more modern times, that those were the 2 that I had also kind of felt we should be talking about.
Nice. Let's move on to movies.
Absolutely. because
Take it away, Dan.
well, I didn't know if you wanted to go backwards or forwards, but we could always go back to this one, back to 1985 with the young Sherlock Holmes.
Oh, I saw that on Prime, and I almost watched it, and then I was like, that's probably really irritating to watch.
Oh, sure it is. Yeah, I haven't seen it in forever, but it's like it's notable because it has a CG character, like the first one.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What's the CG character?
Basically, at one point, like a knight jumps out of stained glass, and then it's CG, and they fight it.
Oh, so they're like dealing with supernatural stuff in it.
Yeah, again, I haven't seen it in forever, but I just thought it would be notable to bring up, and it's all the way back to 1985.
It feels out of place for Sherlock to fight supernatural stuff.
Sure. But
But
at that
I know
point,
it happens a lot.
exactly. Like it's kind of like yeah, they just it crosses a bit into there because he deals with weird stuff. But from 1986, of course, there's The Great Mouse Detective.
Oh, I love The Great Mouse Detective. That's such a great movie. Vincent Price voiced the bad guy.
Voiced Ratigan?
Yeah.
Nice. So yeah, talking about cartoon Sherlock versions, there's this, and he lives, below Sherlock Holmes.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I forgot about that. Oh, I really want to watch The Great Mouse Detective again now. Ratigan has like the best villain song ever.
Yeah, where he's just showing off like how glam he is.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's a great.
Oh man.
It's a great old school. Because he's Basil and I forget who is. But anyway, it's Sherlock, but they're mice.
Oh, it's so great.
And they fight a rat named Ratigan.
Named Ratigan, voiced by Vincent Price.
Yeah, so it's a good worthy addition if you haven't seen it.
And if you don't want to see it, but you do want like to have joy in your life, you should just YouTube the Ratigan song. Because it's good.
Sure. But like I was saying previously, between that period, like there's some TV shows and a lot of TV movies, but really there wasn't a movie. Because like you said, but like there was none that was called like Sherlock Holmes essentially until the 2009 one.
Yes, starring Robert Downey Jr. and Jude Law.
Yeah, but unless there was some in that period you wanted to talk about before we talk about that.
No.
Okay. And also directed, of course, by Guy Ritchie.
Guy Ritchie,
Sherlock Holmes, 2009.
Rachel McAdams as Irene Adler.
Yeah, and Mark Strong as the bad guy.
Yes. It was. I feel like we watched that on Christmas Day, didn't we? Or was that the sequel?
We watched both.
Oh, nice. We were like front row too, weren't we?
We were quite close to the front, yes. Because we just showed up because we were like, let's just go do this.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. It was good.
It's super good. This is probably one of my favorite Sherlock Holmes things is both those movies.
Yeah, it was an interesting interpretation. I liked the way that Guy Ritchie did the fight scenes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and that's one of the things is Sherlock fights.
Yeah.
He's more always, of course, uses intellect and everything, but in this, he's rough and tumble British guy, right?
I think I enjoyed the sequel more than the original, though.
Well, before we get to the sequel,
okay,
because the sequel's really good, is I do really like, of course, the depiction and the chemistry Jude Law and Robert Downey Jr. share, and the depiction, like you said, of the fight scenes and how he uses his intellect not only in his crime fighting but as well as in his fighting. It was just a different interpretation that you've never seen before.
Yeah, it was okay, now I don't know if no, it's the first one he does a weird like ritual, right?
Yes. The Mark Strong is using quote unquote magic and he's going to take over Parliament essentially.
Right.
Is the plot.
But Sherlock stops him.
They do indeed stop him. But you get hints, like you said, because Irene Adler's in there, and she's been hired by an outside party for unknown reasons.
Yes. So you get hints from Moriarty.
Yeah. Which is cool. It was really well set up. That I don't even know if they planned a sequel, say at the time, but they set that up, and I think just like you said, he's using magic, but it's there's the science behind it, which is where Sherlock comes in to detect all that. And yeah, it's really well made and well directed and great costume, great set design. Like you buy it.
They were great costumes.
Yeah.
I 100% agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, and you just, like you said, you buy everything that you're seeing, that you're just like, yep, that's weird Victorian London going on. And yeah, you get some good hints at like his connections with underground and with people, and he's just doing weird stuff.
It was really good.
Mm-hmm. Which then led, yes, to the Game of Shadows in 2011, 2 years later.
Was it the first one or the second one that had the meat packing fight scene?
That's the first one.
That was a great fight scene.
Yeah, because I was going to say, there's not really a fight scene in that one. That's the one where Irene Adler is chained up.
Yeah, it's like, it's like very suspenseful, and then it explodes.
Yes.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, no, it's really well done. It's a great sequence. And, she, shows them working together and stuff like that, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. Anything more you want to say then before moving on to the sequel?
No, I just remembered that scene, and then I was like, I like that. And so I had to say, I like that.
I also agree with that assessment. Yeah, like I said, there's so much to like about that movie. I don't want to sit here and praise it all day, but it's definitely worth a watch if you've never seen it.
It's a fun, entertaining movie.
Yeah. And then the sequel, A Game of Shadows, which I did not look up his name. The guy who plays Moriarty. You
want me to look it up right now?
It doesn't matter. Or he's in like everything. You see him.
You talk. I'm gonna look him up.
Well, of course. So in the Game of Shadows, we follow onto the further adventures, where this time he is tracking Moriarty and really wants to track him down. And it kind of opens with him trying to, protect somebody because he's fallen into the Moriarty web, as it were. Yes.
Jared Harris plays Professor Moriarty.
There you go. And he does a great job.
He does, yeah.
And
he was in Downton Abbey at one point.
I would totally see he was.
Oh, he was in Chernobyl.
Yes.
And The Crown. That's probably what I'm thinking of.
Right. Yeah, like I said, you've seen him everywhere. He's in a ton of stuff. He does a great job.
Oh, man, he just says yes to everything, it looks like.
Well, and it's interesting because when he played Moriarty, he's one of those guys, and in Chernobyl, like doesn't usually get like the leading role type thing, whereas in this one, he's the big bad, and he gets a lot of screen time.
Yeah. He was in Natural Born Killers?
Like I said, he's been in a ton of stuff.
Sorry, I'll put my phone away now.
But before we continue too much, because it happens really early in the beginning, this is one of my criticisms of the sequel, is that they kill Irene Adler very early in the movie.
Yep.
And I get it from like a one kind of structural thing that it's like, okay, it shows the situation's heightened and they want to introduce Numi Rapace. But I was also like, could have used Irene Adler for a little more to do something else before she just dies, right?
I assume that Rachel McAdams had other engagements.
Did she though?
Oh, that's a good point. This was actually post her really popular time, right?
Yeah, like post Notebook and stuff, right? So
yeah, she'd already done Notebook and Wedding Chasers at that point, or Wedding Crashers.
Yeah, so I don't know. Anyway, like I said, it's a minor criticism, I guess, where I was kind of like, she's a cool character, dead.
Maybe she didn't get along with the director or something. You never know, right?
Exactly. Like I said, I don't know the whole story. I didn't really look into it super deeply. I'm just talking from a pure, just like, I liked her. I liked the character. Dead.
Yeah.
In like the first 5 minutes or whatever.
Yeah, it was super. It did it did throw you though as like an audience. Like
Yeah.
definitely not an expected thing.
Sure. And then so it's Watson's getting married, of course, and Sherlock is still trying to investigate, and he's trying to drag Watson into the investigation with him. And then adventures ensue. And this one's kind of a little more, they travel around Europe a little more, and you see some more locations and stuff like that. And you get some fun stuff with gypsies and, that train sequence and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah, the train sequence was really cool.
Yeah, it's really well put together. And like you said, Guy Ritchie, say what you will, but the guy can put together a really good sequence. And there's always one sequence that's like, this is a Guy Ritchie sequence. And in this movie, I feel it's the forest scene when they're escaping from the weapons facility.
Yes. Oh, sorry, I keep sniffing.
Well, then I'll continue to speak, I guess, and annoy our audience. But
going, sorry.
Yeah. But yeah, so they're escaping from a weapons facility. This is after Holmes has been tortured, and there's some crazy stuff going on, and they're shooting artillery shells at them, and trees are exploding, and they're running. They're trying to catch a train, and they're also being chased by, this ex-army sniper and stuff like that. So it's an intense sequence, really well put together. This was something I learned from the Corridor Crew, speaking of special effects and stuff like that. Do you know, like, because how they're running and the camera's side on a lot, right?
Yes.
And how it goes in from zoom to like far shots or back and forth like that without any kind of like almost cuts or loss of fidelity, almost in a sense.
Yeah.
And they did that by doing the same thing that they did on 300, where they set up the camera tracks, like the dolly, side on, and then they just set up like 2 or 3 cameras at different focal lengths, and then they just shoot it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and then you're able to just put those shots together because it's the same shot, but just from different focal lengths. So it doesn't look like you've cut to make a new shot or a new setup or anything like that, because it's not. And it's actually a smart technique to film that way, because 300 does the same thing, right? Like that one scene where they bust out. So that's where they got the idea from.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I learned that from the internet. Good old stuff.
The internet.
But it's an intense sequence and so well put together and stuff like that. So it's, a good action set piece.
Cool. Yeah.
And then, it all culminates at in Switzerland at Reichenbach, I guess, and where Holmes and Moriarty have, a chess game, and
they both go over the waterfall.
Which is so well put together, and as you said, subverts the expectations, because Holmes does his how do I analyze my fight, and he's like, okay, I'm probably going to lose, blah blah blah, and then he takes an unexpected move, to take them both down, and it's good.
And then is it in the post-credit sequence where he comes back as a chair?
Yeah. It's not really post-credit, or I think it might be, it's like almost post-credits or just almost immediately before credits or whatever, right? Because we see a funeral, and then we see Watson typing out like his, final memoir.
Yeah.
And then he gets delivered like a little air thing, and then he's a chair with his urban camouflage.
Great movie, though.
Yeah, really well put together. Did you have any criticisms or praises? Because you said you like the sequel better.
Yeah, I just felt like it was a more interesting story.
Right.
I wasn't sneezing all morning.
I know, it's just because we're trying to record.
It's because we're trying to record, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I just found it to be, for whatever reason, I just enjoyed it more. Maybe it was because they were running through the forest at that scene. And I like the forest.
Sure. Well, and I think, like you said, the more expansive scheme of Moriarty trying to draw these nations into basically like World War One.
You know what else? It might have also been a bit... I'm familiar enough with Sherlock that I don't need to be introduced to Sherlock.
Mm-hmm.
The characters are a little bit more established in the sequel.
Yeah.
So you can explore more interesting plot points because you don't have to spend time establishing who they are.
Right.
But that's, I don't know. That's just me.
That's fair. That's fair enough. Well, that's why like a Spider-Man 2 is always like a little stronger because that third of the movie, you don't have to do that. It's like we know.
Oh, plus like Spider-Man 2 had Doc Ock in it.
Sure.
Unless you're talking about Homecoming, which is also a really great movie.
Yeah, no, but I am talking about Doc Ock one.
Yeah, of course you are, because it's Doc Ock and it was great.
Yeah. But I'm just like, yeah, I'm agreeing with you in that because that happens a lot in those intro origins, and then you're like, okay, but the sequel, it's like we don't have to do that.
Yeah, sometimes you just like maybe that's why I thought that Harley Quinn and the Birds of Prey was, well, it was better than Suicide Squad for a lot of reasons. But also, it's an already established character in an established universe, right?
Yeah.
Okay, next movie.
That's all I got, unless you have some more.
So this year, a movie called Enola Holmes was released on Netflix.
You're right, yeah.
Starring Millie Bobby Brown and Henry Cavill and Helena Bonham Carter.
Nice.
Millie Bobby Brown plays Enola Holmes, who is the younger sister of Sherlock and Mycroft.
Mm.
And the story is about her mother, Helena Bonham Carter, goes missing. She lives at a manor alone with her mom, and Sherlock and Mycroft show up because she's their ward. Mycroft wants to send her to a finishing school so that she can become a lady and get married.
Sure.
So she runs away, as you do.
Yeah.
And she meets like a lord or a duke or something that's the same age as her, who there's somebody trying to kill him, and they kind of team up, and she solves the mystery, finds her mother, blah, blah, blah. It's very like, it's based on a series of books.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and I think it would have made a better TV show than movie.
Oh, interesting.
I also feel like that when I was 10 years old, I probably would have loved it.
Nice.
But I kind of found it a little bit contrived, I guess, as an adult.
Right.
But it is like media that I would be comfortable if I had, a daughter between the age of like 9 to 13. It'd be media that I'd be comfortable with them watching.
Right.
Because she's a pretty good role model and stuff. She doesn't always do things like perfectly. She falters a bit, which is interesting. It does get a little bit annoying because she's constantly breaking the fourth wall.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like she's constantly talking to the audience.
Oh, that's very odd.
Like almost to the point where the audience is like another cast member. The audience gets more screen time than Henry Cavill does. So that's like, it can be a bit irritating.
Mm-hmm.
And it really did feel like it was an episode in a TV show rather than a movie.
Well, and it's interesting. Oh, sorry. I was just going to say it's very curious because it's, as you said, it's on Netflix. Oh, no, but it wasn't made by Netflix, right?
No, I think it was made by Netflix.
Because I thought it was supposed to come out in theater, or was it not supposed to come out in theater?
I don't know, but Millie Bobby Brown produced it. So I was wondering if it was maybe like a passion project of hers because she really liked the books as a kid.
Right. That's fair. If it wasn't meant to come out in theater, of course, they could have just made a show. But if it was supposed to come out in theaters, then obviously you make it for theaters.
Pardon me. I'm pretty sure it was made for Netflix. Like it was a Netflix-made movie.
Yeah.
But maybe they just didn't know how well it was going to do. So they wanted to like test it out. It's got all the Netflix actors in it too. Like Millie Bobby Brown's from Stranger Things. Henry Cavill's, of course, The Witcher.
Yeah.
Helena Bonham Carter's in The Crown. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it was a Millie Bobby Brown passion project.
Oh, good for her. I mean, getting behind the camera, producing some stuff.
Yeah. It has a very like Nancy Drew, Harriet the Spy kind of feel.
Sure.
Yeah. But yeah, it was okay. I think I would have enjoyed it a lot more if I was about 20 years younger. Maybe even 25 years younger.
But yeah, like you say, maybe it'll play a lot better for that kind of an audience. And you're not the true target audience for this.
Oh, totally. The costumes were good, though. And it doesn't look cheap at all. Like, yeah, I don't know. It was okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
So it's like a partial recommend for a specific audience.
I don't know how much you specifically would enjoy it, Dan.
Right.
I don't think you'd hate it. But I think you'd be kind of on the same page as me that you're like, this isn't meant for me.
Right, yeah. And that's fine. Not all media is made for everybody.
That's true. But I did watch it.
Cool.
The way the trailer's set up, I thought it was like a mini series going into it. Like I thought it was going to be like an 8-episode series.
Yeah.
And about an hour and 20 minutes into it, I realized that it was a movie.
Yeah, like it feels like it could be really right for like a 6 to 8 episode thing. And then you're like, season 1 Enola Holmes, blam, you know?
Yeah, I wonder if they're going to spin it off into a TV show. I could see them doing that because there's apparently a few books, right?
Yeah, exactly, right? Like if you have all that material.
The movie kind of introduces the characters and then they could spin it off into a series and I was going to say maybe replace some of the actors if they couldn't get them or whatever.
Sure. Yeah. And then I was going to say maybe the idea is to kind of do almost like BBC Sherlock where you make hour and a half-ish type episodes, but you make one a year or whatever.
So the other thing is that I didn't feel like it needed to be an hour and a half long.
Oh, okay.
There was a lot they could have trimmed out to make it like an hour or even 45 minutes. Yep.
That's not good.
It didn't like there was just like a couple scenes that didn't really add anything to the movie or the plot, but like they needed the runtime. But they didn't totally feel like filler. Like it wasn't like an episode of Xena where there's like 10 minutes of just her riding on her horse with like music playing in the background. Or like, what was that show I really liked? The Marvel show about the strong lady that had David Tennant in it.
Oh, Jessica Jones.
Yeah, it wasn't like a Jessica Jones where you've got like a 5-minute montage of her looking sad.
I really, sorry, as an aside, because I haven't seen season 2, like, I really want to watch it, but I also know going in that I'm like, this should have been 8 episodes.
Yeah, I haven't seen season 2 either.
Yeah.
And I just feel like if David Tennant's not in it, it's not as really worth watching.
That's also where I'm at, too. I'm kind of like, eh.
And apparently he's in it a little bit, but like as memories.
Yeah, I could see that, of course. Yeah. But anyway, but that's like why I haven't watched like Daredevil season 2 or 3, even though I've heard they're good. But I'm just like, I feel like they're too long. Like season 1 was just so like 13 episodes. Ugh, just been trimmed.
I couldn't get through season 1.
Yeah. Well, and even Jessica Jones season 1 like should have been 8 episodes, and it would have been way tighter.
There is a ton they could trim out of it. Like I really enjoyed watching Jessica Jones when it came out, but there's so much they should have trimmed out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Daredevil, man, I cannot get behind the Kingpin at all. I think I made it 3 episodes in, and I'm just like, can't do it. Bye.
Okay. But that's the fortunate. You have the ability to just be like, nope.
Yeah, totally.
Like you said, back to Enola.
Yeah, they could have trimmed a lot out of it. It would have made a better TV show. I would have trimmed out almost all of her talking to the audience.
Yeah. And
it gets really annoying really quickly. Also, she explains like 15 times that her name's Enola and it's alone spelt backwards.
Yeah, that's fair. And I was going to say maybe that fourth wall is a device that's in the books.
Yeah, that's very possible.
Yeah. So they're just trying to replicate that.
It wasn't working for me.
Yeah, that's fair.
I could see it working for a 12-year-old, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. but not for a 35-year-old. Yeah,
And
that's all I've got on my list, though.
Sorry, and last question. I assume Henry Cavill is Sherlock then.
Henry Cavill is Sherlock.
Yeah. You
wouldn't know it from any of the dialogue he has, except for him saying, "I'm Sherlock."
Well, that's good. At least they say it at least once.
Yeah. Like he's not very clever in it.
Right.
Like he's not like a modern Sherlock that's like, "Oh, how's your dead grandmother?" And you're like, "I didn't tell you my grandmother was dead." And he's like, "Well, I could see that you have blue paint on your left index finger."
Yeah. And your shoe is slightly scuffed with a certain kind of mud from the graveyard.
Yeah, totally, right?
Yeah.
So there's none of that. It was just more like, "Hello, I'm Sherlock. Yes, you're my sister. Okay."
I will see you later. I'm away with me.
I look very nice in this suit, but it's time for me to go.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
I gotta go kill some monsters.
And then he flies away in his blue cape.
Yeah.
With his CG mustache.
No, CG non-mustache.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah. The mustache was sweet. They should just let him have a mustache. He was bearded at certain points.
Yeah, why can't Superman have a mustache?
Yeah.
Could have made it cool again, but no.
Well, he did in Man of Steel when he's doing his travel the world montage. He grows like a beard mustache situation.
Can I be honest with you? I have not seen any of the new Superman movies. Or the old ones. I just have no interest in Superman.
That's fair.
Even with the most attractive Henry Cavill. Nope. No, thank you.
Well, talking about trimming things, like, again, Man of Steel, like, half that movie could have been trimmed out in, like, a good way. Not just like, this is boring, but it's more just like, oh, no, like, this should have been trimmed and the movie would have been better for it. Oh. Which is too bad because I like Henry Cavill as Superman.
I like Henry Cavill as The Witcher. Have you watched that yet?
No, it's on the list.
He's really good at going, fuck.
Well, you got to get those things right.
That's 90% of his lines in The Witcher. Fuck. Do you like my impression? It's pretty spot on, if you ask.
Yeah, it sounds very believable. Just like Henry Cavill's delivery.
I think so. I think I could be the next Henry Cavill, and DC should call me. You can be Supergirl for that.
Yeah, there you go.
I know there's a TV one, but I could be the movie Supergirl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't cross over. They're their own universes. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah, technically.
Interesting.
I mean, kind of. They actually did bring Brandon Routh back into the show, but they were more like Crisis Infinite Earth, like crossover events.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But there was hints in Man of Steel of a Supergirl because he finds like a Kryptonian ship with like an open pod that it's like, oh, someone else was here kind of thing. So. Yeah. Anyway, neither here nor there. But yeah, some good stuff from Sherlock. There's been some, great depictions, some not so good depictions, but it's interesting. The book's totally good to read, even now. Very enjoyable.
Oh yeah. And if we missed your favorite interpretation of Sherlock, you can email us because we would love to hear about it. You can email us at tomeofuselessness@gmail.com. And we will gladly take your recommendations and watch it and maybe do an episode about it.
Yeah, I'd be very interested to know other Sherlock media.
They're like, nope, this is it.
It's only the 5, not even worth it.
So you can follow us on social media. I post almost never, but you should follow us anyways. It's at Tome of Uselessness. You can also go to our website, tomeofuselessness.com. You should rate and review us on your podcast platform and share it with all your friends. And then that's it.
I like to say always, stay safe and thanks for listening.
Bye.